So
Yeah. You know, who is that writer? Who's the writer that writes the scary stories?
Stephen King?
Stephen King. Stephen King wrote a book about writing. I don't know if you read that.
no.
I think it's called On Writing. And when he wrote his first book, I forget what it was, but he didn't like it and he threw it away. And his wife saw it in the garbage and she took it out and she read it. And she said, "You cannot throw this away. It's too good. You gotta publish it." So he ended up publishing it, and that was, after that, he became a big famous writer, but he was gonna throw that first book away.
Yeah, I had an ad in again in a couple periodicals, Catholic periodicals about my books, and about one of them called me about 3 weeks ago or a month ago. She sent me a request for it, so I sent her the list. She asked me about a book written by a priest that I didn't have, and I looked around. I checked around on the internet, and I finally told her I found one in one place. I saw where it listed the book, but it was out of print and unavailable. But then I checked with a private friend of mine in Philadelphia, and he deals in some old books, and he had the book. So I wrote her back, and I said, when I sent her my list, I told her that I can get the book for you. It'll be $14, which is over a 600-page book. And I left her to get anything else. Finally, she called me back a couple of nights ago, and she said that she wants the book, of course, that she asked me about. And I mentioned to her that he had a couple other books, also written by the same priest. So I told her about the two titles, and she didn't think much of one, but she said she'd get the other one. So I had to send to my friend in Philadelphia to get the other one.
What was the priest's name?
Oh, I forget now. It was a priest I'd never heard of before. And and then she told me that 4 books that she wanted from my list that I have on there of old collectible books that I have. She's Catholic. I thought she'd want at least one Catholic book. All she wanted was 4. There was the 2 by that priest, and then 4 books from my old collectibles list. And I told her I had the first one she asked, and then afterwards I went and I was getting the books out to get ready for her, and it wasn't there. I didn't have it, and then I remembered, and that's why it sounded so familiar when she asked me about it. I remembered then that about a year and a half ago I sold it to someone else. I forgot to take it off my list.
Well, there used to be a priest in Kansas, and he ran what they called a contemplative farm, and people would go there for retreats. But they had like a staff of 4 or 5 people that lived there permanently, and they lived these little cabins, But what he did is he was a writer, actually, and he would write modern fairy tales, basically, Aesop's fables type things.
Oh.
And actually they were very good, mostly short stories. And one he wrote something about a tattoo, but this guy went to Morocco or someplace like that. Everybody there had these tattooed crosses and stuff. They had tattoos, and he wanted one, so he goes to see this tattoo artist who's very good, and the tattoo artist said, "Well, I'll do it, but I don't use any kind of Novocaine or anything like that, you know, to ease the pain. What I do is I tell stories. And so the rest of the book, each chapter is a story that this tattoo artist is telling while he's doing the tattoos. And then when he gets to the end, the tattoo's done. And the guy that's getting the tattoo doesn't even realize it, he didn't feel a thing, you know? Because that could be a painful process.
Mm.
But he wrote several books that were very, very good, but in that vein, all fiction. But he had an interesting, we didn't live too far from that, where he was located. And occasionally, we would go there for mass. They had you couldn't just show up, you had to be invited. So you had to get an invitation to go there, because they had a very small chapel. They could only fit so many people, and they didn't want everybody coming. And we went a couple of times. They took a barn and converted it into a chapel. And what he did is, down where the altar is, he cut a square out of the floor so that the altar sat on the earth. And then he did the mass in his bare feet, so that he was in contact with Mother Earth.
Mm.
And he had a lot of different things in that chapel that were
I never saw a priest
kind of
do
like
that.
cosmopolitan type things. Like in one corner there's a statue of Buddha, and in another corner a statue of one of the Indian gods, you know, and stuff like that. And he just sort of said, well, you know, it's all God. And he had behind the altar were sliding glass doors. And at the end of the mass, he would, you know, during the sign of peace, he'd open up the doors and say, well, let's let the peace go out to the rest of the world. And these doves would take off and fly. Every mass, these doves would take off. And it's just absolutely amazing. So then afterwards, they had coffee and donuts, you know. So I'm having coffee and donuts with him, and I said, that's really something, how those doves take off right at the end of mass. He said, yeah, it's getting to be expensive. I'm like, I beg your pardon? He said, well, we buy those doves. They're not wild. And we have it rigged up so when I open the doors, the doves fly. Problem is, the hawks get them. So every mass I had to go buy 2 more doves.
Was there any?
You know, it's all symbolic.
Were there any KWON Yin statues there?
Sorry?
KWON Yin. Actually, I was reading Bruce Lee's notes. He was talking about KWON Yin. That was like a female Buddha.
Yeah.
Yeah, and KWON Yin is also, they say, it's another name for the Virgin Mary. Some people say, and it's like the female element of God or goddess.
Yeah, well, you know, all that, I'm an atheist now, but that was all very interesting years ago.
You say a lot of interesting things to be an atheist.
I just know a lot, and I read a lot. Yeah. Someday I'll have to explain why. But a lot of literature came through the early church.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The common people, before they had the printing press,
Yeah.
most of the common people couldn't read. The nobility, most of them were taught to read, but the common people weren't.
The monks were, and the monks copied copied books by hand, Bibles and other books by hand, all done by hand.
Yeah, but most of them could not read. They copied what they saw.
Right.
They didn't understand what they were reading.
Some of them were educated.
Some of them, but most of them were just copiers, you know. And but they collected books.
The first thing that was made, they say, all by the printing press when the priests were made in the Bible. That was the first thing they printed.
Yeah, well, it was converted from Greek to English. That was really the purpose of it. And then they made it available for everybody in the printing press. You know, you didn't have to go and get one copy. You could just buy one. You know? It made a big difference. But,
I think that's probably the best invention in that time of the world. From the medieval times on, I think that's probably the single best invention for the older centuries.
began the start of the Enlightenment. My first book that I published